I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue.
She continues to raise the hard questions that strike right at the heart of our nation. Live from the United National Congress social space, former Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition, Kamla Persad-Bissessar.
I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue.
Good evening. I'm so happy to join you again in your homes, maybe on your phone. But I thank you all for logging in. And to my colleagues who are here, thank you for sharing this virtual space with us this evening. Once again, we are 1 week away from reading the national budget, or having the budget read to us. At this point in time, we do not know how that budget reading will take place. We do not know how many of us as MPs will be allowed into the chamber, and then when it goes to the Senate, how many senators will be allowed in the chamber. We do not know what will be the length of the speeches, because we've already seen where the government has been using COVID to prevent parliamentarians from attending in the parliament chamber, and to prevent parliamentarians from using their allotted time. So what will it be? A COVID budget, a virtual budget? We are yet to find that out. Nevertheless, our team has been preparing, really preparing, everyone plus others assisting. We have had many consultations, we've had several meetings, and whatever it is that they come with, we will be prepared for them. And it's very simple, because they will come with nothing to give to anyone. Their budget is going to be one of doom and gloom, and they started it today. Spotlight on incompetence. Spotlight on mismanagement. Spotlight on blame game. So blaming my government, 5 years gone, still blaming us, and moving into blame COVID. Blame COVID. So, friends, from today's spotlight, we have an idea of the direction that the government will be going. It is very clear when I explain what a budget is. The budget is to give us estimates of revenue, estimates of expenditure. The Minister of Finance, I think for the first time that I can recall, prior to a budget, has in fact said what his revenue would be and what his projected expenditure would be. You'll not just be like a top secret. You'll have to wait until budget day, walk into the parliament, they put these big books, yellow books on the desk with all the estimates, and then the minister himself would start telling you what the revenue figures are, what the expenditure estimates would be. And the only thing I think they didn't do today was to say what they would give to people. They talked about how they will raise the revenue. They talked about getting revenue from borrowings again, from taxing again, from fire sales, selling out assets and so on. And they didn't mention it, but I know they talked about it before, where they would do something again like the NIF and the NEL and so on, creating these false funds, which are in fact really loans from people, which you have to pay back at some point in time, or you keep pushing it down the road. So it has a kind of borrowing too, a kind of mortgaging of state assets, which you will have to pay back. So they gave some revenue measures. In terms of expenditure, he talked about recurrent expenditure capital expenditure, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, the recurrent expenditure, it tends to be far greater than the capital expenditure. So we will not see much development taking place, given the kinds of figures they've mentioned. And in the past years, they have put development figures, capital expenditure, in what is known as the PSIP, Public Sector Investment Program. They would put the allocations, but then they don't have the drawdowns on it. They don't give it. So people end up just on paper. One thing I have learned from listening to their budgets every year is that they lie. They make promises that they never deliver on. Promises never materialize. And so this year again, I am not going to be surprised by anything they stand up there to tell us, because their promises never materialize. If we look at their past budgets, we will see the repeat promises every year. You remember the 6 game changers? And everyone, game over. So game changer, everyone, the Sanders scandals, you move along, the Dragon deal, all these promises that were made for development of the economy, to grow jobs in the country, none materialized. And instead, we have been seeing, in spite of the CSO's failure, and therefore the government's failure to present us with unemployment numbers since June 2017. It is June 2017, not 18, it's June 2017. It's the last set of CSO statistics on persons without jobs. But there are other ways that we can work it out. And last year, we got an NIB annual report which told us, look, there's so many people have lost jobs, given us the previous amounts and now. So even though CSO didn't do it, NIB brought out their report in September. It was on 28th of September last year. So we had it in time for the budget reading, and we were able to estimate over 60,000 persons had lost jobs. That was before COVID. This government coming into office, over 60,000 persons had lost jobs since this government came into office in 2015. That was before COVID. Anita mentioned people coming into her offices. Other MPs will tell you, normal human beings, if you live in the real world, you will know the job losses are massive, massive job losses. So again, they will lie to us about unemployment, but the suffering there and the people there, they know about it. With the job losses on the ground, everywhere. Businesses, as you mentioned, the SMEs, Russia talked about closing down. Everywhere, job losses. And yet they come on national TV to spotlight lies about unemployment numbers and so on. So they talked about the revenue earners, and they talk about capital expenditure and recurrent expenditure, but I didn't hear anything to help people. I didn't hear one measure that they would enforce or bring into place to make you feel better. So they're saying property tax, but don't worry, we're giving you a little break on the income tax. So moving it from 70,000 whatever to 84,000 projected figures. Don't worry, so they give you it in one hand. Don't pay tax on that, but you know what? Come and pay property tax. But you know what? There are other taxes. And Monday we will hear what those other taxes are. If you want to buy a car, I suggest you buy it now. If you want to buy a car, I suggest you buy it now. Because there are going to be taxes and taxes on everything. More taxes. I don't know what they will do with the VAT. I mentioned we should take off more food items off the VAT. That is the kind of budget I would bring. We would have brought UNC. Taxes will not take us into a place that grows jobs, creates jobs. Taxes will push us down. So you don't grow prosperity in an economy by having people pay more and more tax. So Rich talked about several questions we would want to ask about a budget, this budget, or any budget. I would like to see in this budget, and this is what we had promised in our transformation plan, jobs. How are you going to create jobs? Because so many job losses. What is there to create jobs? What is a way to have jobs retained, retention of jobs? And one way to do that is to assist businesses with a wage subsidy. With a wage subsidy. That is what I'd like to see. So you don't just take, and then you give a blank check as a salary relief grant, which people never got. or a rental grant, which people haven't got. What you do, you look at these small businesses, all businesses in fact, and you help them with a wage subsidy so that you can bring their workers back. Even if you have to rotate those workers, even if workers have to come in a few days a week, you can create jobs, more jobs like that, and help with a wage subsidy. So I want to see, Prime Minister, what your government proposes to be creating jobs. What are the policies and programs for job creation? Secondly, what are you doing about education? I spoke of this last week and I will never stop speaking of it because it pains me to see what our children in this country is going down. This man is such a liar. You know, he went to the United Nations and lied virtually. He lied to the United Nations. He lied to us here about Petrotrin. He said the government is not closing down Petrotrin. And lo and behold, what happened? Closed down. That's why I said don't believe anything I tell you. He goes to the United Nations and this is what he says virtually in addressing the UN. Such a great body, you know. He goes to the United Nations and he talks about children. He said, and I quote, "The government of Trinidad and Tobago remains attentive to the needs of our children. And as we navigate through these challenging times, we remain committed to ensuring that no child is left behind." As we spoke about and talk about Lord Ned, so you hear lie? That is lie. He says the government remains attentive to the needs of all our children. We will navigate through these challenging times and remain committed to ensuring that no child is left behind. Prime Minister, can you seriously, honestly say that? Do you really believe that, you know? This man is not for real. This is a man who was looking for a peacock. Well, you know, I only gave you episode 1 of that peacock story, you know. Let me give you episode 2 today. Because episode 2 is even worse than episode 1. Would you believe that 2 high-ranking police officers are investigating the purported homicide, the purported murder of this peacock? Would you believe that? I mean, this man is living on perhaps I don't know the right word, but it's unbelievable that he will tell United Nations that his government is attentive to the needs of all our children. This is a man who has 2 high-level policemen in this country investigated the alleged murder of a peacock. And gets worse. And then has them seeking advice from the DPP. I mean, is this real? Is this Trinidad and Tobago? Is this some banana republic in a place that we don't even know? And here you are, you go to the United Nations, you're too busy, have this investigation going on, that you don't realize that many thousands of children today are being left behind. You tell the United Nations, you're committed to them. And so it is, this is the same man, you know, whose government, when they came in 2015, was September, would have been the same month when the laptops would have started to be distributed for that year. Scrap the laptop program and says, foolishness, laptops are foolishness. You will see the thing up on his own voice saying it. He said even more, it is therefore in our best interest to ensure that our nation's children have both the opportunity and the necessary tools to fulfill their highest potential. Is he for real? Is this the same person we know as Keith Christopher Rowley? Is he the leader of the government of Trinidad and Tobago that he goes there to lie to the United Nations? Well, Prime Minister, I call again, as I did last week, I call on you again, give the children the laptops. In this budget, give them the laptops. Whatever revenue you raise, if you really want to keep our children, no child left behind, give the children the laptops. An entire generation is being lost. There's an IDB study which is telling us, look what's happening when children are losing school. It is working out the percentage of their earning power in future, the educational achievement, and the kinds of jobs that they will go into. So from now, even from preschool, this study is showing us in Latin America and the Caribbean that these children stand to really be very adversely affected in their future. So here we go. I said jobs. We want to see the measures for job creation. We had an entire national economic transformation plan. Suraj made mention of it. In that plan, we set out what we call the prosperity engines, the prosperity drivers for job creation. It's still up there on our website, and you can take a look at it. But we gave very clear strategies for creating jobs. And of course, we gave the strategy again about the laptop. So education, jobs, what else we want to see in a budget that is people-centered? There should be no additional tax burden on citizens, no additional tax burden. The property tax should be reconsidered at this time. It should not be put on the shoulders of citizens at this time. I mentioned to you last week that at this point in time, they cannot force you to register on the rolls, on property rolls and so on. And if there's not 50% of households registered, then they cannot trigger the tax. However, I warn you, what they will come in to do is to make it mandatory for us to register properties. And we will deal with them when they bring that change in the law in the parliament. I have my lawyers looking at that for us now as to whether they can do that with a simple majority in the parliament or whether they would need a special majority in order to force people to go to register. So what they can do is put a penalty that if you do not register, then penalize you. And then we'll see if they create these penalties, how they did the COVID penalties through subsidiary legislation and so on. So we'll be keeping an eye on them. So no additional tax burden, but it's not just a property tax. The way they're talking about it is a plethora of taxes will be coming. Several taxes they are planning to come to level on people. Another area I would like to see the government address because of it's COVID times, we know it's hard times, we know all of that. But you do not increase the suffering of your citizens and your people. Instead, you try to make sure that they have a plate of food on your table. So we should work towards having more affordable food. And one way to do that, I mentioned already, is taking the VAT off from food items. The government has not told us how they intend to reduce the national debt. So he spoke about that debt, and he was very right. In addition to what they are saying is 120 billion, he mentioned all the other areas, and there's another area they're called contingent liabilities. They do not appear as part of the debt, the national debt. But again, that is in the billions. These are debts taken by state enterprises where the government signs letters of guarantee and so on. So there's also that is happening in terms of national debt. But we have no idea how. Government has not told us how they will reduce that national debt. Instead, they plan to continue borrowing because the Prime Minister, I heard someone say, a Prime Minister was boasting about how he could still borrow, that they can still borrow. So as we go forward, with respect to budgeting, we will look at the spotlight in more detail because I think that spotlight is really telling us what is going to come on Monday. And they have a COVID phase 2 plan which tells us which are some of the assets they want to sell. The fire sales, they mentioned certain ones for consideration, the Republic Bank shares, that amount that the government has ownership in the Republic Bank shares and several others. But I'm also hearing, and I ask if this is true, that they plan to increase the tariffs on electricity and on water. Now, when that happens, I mean, you're already going to be killed with taxes. Food prices have already gone up. When you increase electricity and water rates, we are going to get into serious difficulty. So I find in their positioning and in their posturing, they are not offering any solutions. It is just that they're filling the hole that they've already created. Other speakers before me mentioned this crisis we are in is not COVID. It is not because of COVID. You crashed the economy before COVID, long before COVID came this year. In January this year, it was declared a pandemic and a deadly disease and so on. You crushed the economy since last year. You crushed it the year before and the year before. And each year, this Minister of Finance comes and postures in the Parliament reading a budget, and he's there turn around and he's seeing the skies clearly now. Remember that? He would come into the Parliament and he's singing, could see clearly now. Turn around, things getting great. When each year we were falling deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into a pit. They have never been honest with the country about their numbers. They fudged the numbers, they cooked the numbers, and I suspect they will do the same thing again in this year's budget. So, 1 week away, my friends, I tell you that we will be ready, and I would like to ask some questions. Where has the money gone? Keith Rowley, where has the money gone? You have 5 budgets. You have over $3 billion spent. Well, I'm saying $300 billion. $300 billion spent, and not a single achievement to speak of. Not one. I'm sorry, there is one. 4 light bulbs. 4 light bulbs. That's what you've given to the people of this country. 5 budgets, $300 billion spent, and what you get? An LED bulb. That's what we got, which cost taxpayers $8.8 million. Maybe you should have taken that money, as others have said, and buy the laptops. Help the children who need the laptops. That's what you could have done. A bulb that cost 8.8, bulbs that cost 8.8 million. I wonder how that contract was awarded. We have found no tender documents. This is one of the 3 F's, the friends, the financiers, and family, who got the contract. Tell us what was the process to award the contract for the light bulbs, the LED bulbs. Tell us about that. Now, where has that money gone? Where has that money gone? $300 billion. Where has the money that came from the CAF, the bank, Latin America Bank, Bank for Latin America and the Caribbean, the Andean Bank, where did that money go? We saw 20 million US was borrowed, and they said was for COVID. Another 400,000 was given as a donation to help with COVID. Where has that money gone? Where all this money borrowed within the last several months, where has it gone? What has it been spent on? What development project? None. Only for, you said, salary grants and whatever else, when citizens are suffering now. I want us to make sure and never forget that more than 60,000 people lost their jobs before COVID. I said it before and I'll repeat it. It is worth repeating. Hundreds of businesses closed before COVID. Petrol destroyed before COVID. Food prices increased consistently over the past 5 years. The shortage of foreign exchange began before COVID-19. Now, I want to make a point about that. Several of our speakers mentioned FDI, foreign direct investment. We have gone into minus FDI, meaning people are taking it back under this Rowley regime. Gone into that. Forex now. Today, the Prime Minister made a startling statement, which, given this COVID circumstances, I agree that Carnival 2021 would be, what is it he said? Cancelled? There will be no Carnival 2021, he said this. I agree, given the COVID circumstance. I want to make that very clear. But that is so short-sighted. It is so visionless. Why, when we are now in a virtual world, we cannot have virtual Carnival events? Why? I see Diwali Nagar is doing 9 nights of virtual Diwali Nagar. So that all the people who participate in Carnival, all the artists, all the really very talented, creative people, can have a chance. And we could have our Carnival across the world, virtual. It can become a Forex earner. And those who are involved in this massive event each year, apart from the actual revelers on the streets, you can have virtual events, Prime Minister. You had a virtual spotlight. Why you can't have a virtual series of events over the Carnival? I want to suggest that to you because that is so like short-sighted. What you said, Munila, you said something about high-level meeting with low-level something, low-level minds. We talk about digitization. Make a whole ministry with something called digitization. Talking about technology, and in this day and age, all those high-level minds could not think that we could host Carnival virtually and showcase it across the world. And do what? Earn foreign exchange. So again, no ideas from the government so far of how to earn revenue, of how to create jobs. That will be job creation, you know. In a different way, but there will be jobs for these artists who will be performing in the virtuals. We did, during our campaign, we did in fact do, Anita Haynes will remember, we did a virtual concert to give the artists, because they were suffering, for them to have something to do during the COVID time. So it could be done, we did it, and it can be done very successfully. And you just spoke about energy, but I see this plant is closed, in Nutrien, closed recently. But we had plants that closed before COVID. We had plants that closed before COVID. So don't come and cry, it's COVID closed on Nutrien. You had Yarrow, we had ArcelorMittal, you had Methanol Holdings and so on. So all of these shut down before COVID. So it's nothing to do with COVID. It is to do with Keith Christopher Rowley and his incompetent government as mismanagers. They have failed the downstream sector. And now the job losses resulting from that. When they came today, they're talking about oil and gas and talking about prices, man. That prices fluctuated. They blame the prices now. That has something to do with it, but that's not it. It's about the production. Both oil and gas production is down and has been dropping because of Rowley. The only things that have been materializing were the initiatives that we entered into when we were in government. Anita mentioned some of those projects. That is why we still have some part of the energy sector going. So, 5 years, same broken record. It's the same broken record for me, but about prices. And you know that, and you still come to talk about being an oil and gas economy. But not not an iota of innovation as to how we can diversify. You still come to talk about oil and gas when oil and gas production under your watch has been dropping and dropping and dropping every year since you've been there. But you have nothing else to tell us as to how you will create revenue apart from oil and gas. We cannot do it. We cannot do it. So, friends, we are really in a bleak place. When this is doom and gloom, I think we really are there. You know why? Because of Keith Rowley and his government. We are in a bad place in the economy, socially, and health-wise. I would like them to tell us a bit more what they intend to do in the health sector with respect to dealing with the crisis that we have in the health sector. So, in every sector, there's trouble. In the economy, socially, health, education. And these are all the things that a government is supposed to take care of. These are the things we pay our taxpayers, we pay the tax dollars for. But the government has failed in every sector in the country. So I do not hold much hope for Monday that we will get some miracle and some light at the end of the tunnel, because it is clear that they don't have what it takes. They do not just don't have the innovation or the creativity to conduct business in a time when it is not business as normal, but it is business unusual. So we will share our thoughts, we will share our ideas. And for those who say, why don't you stay quiet? Why don't you UNC people keep quiet? We will not be quiet. We'll continue to fight for you. We'll continue to work for you. We'll continue to raise the issues that must be raised, because we cannot give the government a free pass. We can't. That is why there is an opposition, I told you, and I repeat, we are the loyal opposition of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And our job is to hold the government to account, hold them accountable. And our job is to devil ideas, to advocate ideas. And you know, you take a word I say devil ideas. I hope you understand what that means. So to put the ideas out there, to discuss them, to have a debate about them. so that we can do the best as we can together for our beloved country, Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you all very much, and we shall meet again through the virtual, if not before. God bless you all. God bless Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue. And I will stay with you. We'll make it to the other side like lovers do. I'll reach my hands out in the dark and wait for yours to, until I can wait for you. I'll wait for you. I'm not giving up, no, not yet. Even when I'm down on my last breath, even when they say there's nothing left, so don't give up on. I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even when nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily, so don't give up on me. Now I'll hold on to you, no matter what this world will throw. It won't shake me loose. I'll reach my hands out in the dark and wait for yours to, until I can wait for you. I'll wait for you. I'm not giving up, no, not yet. Even when I'm down on my last breath, even when they say there's nothing left, so don't give up on. I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even when nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily, so don't give up on. I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue.